The coffee in my hand cost $4.50. The email on my phone just cost me $93,000 a year. I read it twice, then a third time, like the numbers might change if I stared hard enough. Compensation realignment review, mandatory attendance, conference room B, 2 p.m. today. I knew what that meant. Hell, everyone over 45 in this building knew what that meant. We'd watched it happen to Davis in accounting 3 months ago, to Jennifer in operations before that, to Marco, who'd been here since the company had 12 employees and 1 bathroom. Now it was my turn. I'm Dean Porter, 50 years old, 17 years at Ridgeline Systems, 2 sons counting on me. Tyler's college tuition deposit was due in 3 weeks. Carter had a baseball tournament coming up that wasn't cheap. And I had a mortgage that didn't care about corporate restructuring. I finished the coffee, threw the cup in the trash, walked to conference room B like a man walking to his own execution. Because sometimes you see it coming and there's not a damn thing you can do but show up. The conference room smelled like old carpet and fear. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. One dying plant in the corner leaning like it wanted to quit too. Angela Drummond from HR sat there with her oversized glasses and a manila folder. She looked like she was about to tell me I'd won something. Troy Bennett sat beside her, my new division head from Mercier Global. Guy who couldn't tell a server from a smartphone. 38 years old with an MBA from some school I'd never heard of and a watch that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He didn't look up when I walked in, just kept scribbling in his notebook. I sat down, folded my hands on the table, waited. Angela cleared her throat. Dean, thank you for coming. We've completed the compensation realignment review. Realignment. Corporate speak for we're about to screw you. Your new compensation package, she said, sliding a paper across the table, will be $65,000 annually. The room went quiet. Not silent, you could still hear the lights humming, someone talking in the hallway outside. But quiet in that way where everything else fades and you're just stuck in your own head doing math you don't want to do. 158 down to 65. That's 59%. More than half my salary. Gone. I looked at Troy. He still wasn't looking at me. Just kept writing in that stupid notebook like this was routine. Like he wasn't cutting a man's legs out from under him. Can I ask why? I said. Kept my voice level. Professional, Angela blinked. It's part of the organizational restructure. We're optimizing resource allocation across departments. Resource allocation. I was a resource now, not a person. Not someone who'd built 60% of this company's client base. A line item to be optimized. What about my responsibilities? I asked. Those will remain the same, Troy said. First time he'd spoken. Didn't even look up. Same work, less than half the pay. Effective immediately. I could feel my jaw tighten. That thing that happens when you're about to say something you can't take back. But I didn't give them the satisfaction. Just nodded once. I'll think it over. Angela smiled. Actually smiled. Like I'd just agreed to something reasonable. It's effective immediately, Dean. We'll need your decision by end of day. She slid the folder across the table. Everything official. Everything legal. Everything designed to make me feel like I had a choice when we all knew I didn't. I stood up, picked up the folder, didn't say another word, walked out of that conference room with my head up and my hands steady. The old Dean, the one from 5 years ago who still believed loyalty meant something, he would have asked more questions, would have tried to negotiate, would have probably begged. This Dean had been through a divorce, 3 corporate restructurings, and 17 years of watching good people get chewed up by bad management. This Dean knew exactly what this was. I made it to my truck before the reality hit. Sat in the driver's seat with the folder in my lap, engine off, just staring at the steering wheel. Tyler's tuition deposit. $3,000. Due in 3 weeks. Carter's baseball tournament. $1,800. 2 weeks after that. The mortgage. $2,200 a month. Every month. Forever. I'd been making it work. Barely. But I'd been making it work. $65,000 a year? That was $4,300 a month before taxes. Maybe $3,000 after. The math didn't work. Couldn't work. Not with 2 teenage boys and a house and an ex-wife in California who hadn't sent a child support check on time in 2 years. I sat there for an hour, maybe longer, watching people walk to their cars, watching the sun move across the parking lot, watching my whole life recalculate itself in real time. My phone buzzed. Text from Tyler. Dad, coach moved practice to 6. Can you pick me up after? Yeah, I typed back. See you at 6. Like everything was normal. Like I hadn't just lost half my income and didn't know how I was going to tell him that maybe community college wasn't such a bad idea after all. I started the engine, drove home on autopilot, parked in the driveway but didn't get out right away. Just sat there watching the porch light flicker, The same light I'd been meaning to fix for 3 months but never had time for because I was too busy working nights and weekends for a company that just told me I was worth 59% less than I was yesterday. The folder sat on the passenger seat. I didn't open it again. Didn't need to. I knew what was in there. The same corporate language. The same legal protection for them. The same nothing for me. 17 years. I'd given them 17 years. And this was what I got back. I grabbed the folder and walked inside. Poured myself a drink I didn't finish. Just stood at the sink staring at my reflection in the microwave door, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. That's when my phone rang. Curtis Shaw. Hadn't heard from him in months. Not since he left Ridgeline and went to Apex Solutions. Smart guy. Got out before the cuts started. I picked up. Curtis. Dean, he said. No small talk. No, how have you been? Just straight to it. You check LinkedIn lately? I almost laughed. Man, I've been too busy trying to keep my head above water. Yeah, I figured. Listen, I'm at Apex now. You know that. But what you don't know is our executives keep asking about you. That got my attention. They know what you built at Ridgeline, Curtis continued. They know you're the only reason half those clients didn't walk after the Mercier buyout. And they want to talk. I didn't answer right away. My brain was still processing the last hour, still trying to make sense of 65,000 and effective immediately and resource allocation. They know I'm still at Ridgeline, I said finally. They know you're the reason Ridgeline still has clients, Curtis said. Big difference. I told Curtis I'd call him back. Hung up. Stood there in my kitchen with the phone in my hand and that half-empty glass on the counter. 17 years. That number kept coming back. 17 years of my life poured into Ridgeline Systems. I joined in 2008. We were 12 people crammed into a shared office space in Spokane Valley. The kind of startup where everyone did everything. I was writing code one day, meeting clients the next, fixing the printer on Fridays. We didn't have titles. Didn't need them. You either got it done or you didn't. I got it done. First year I worked every holiday. Slept under my desk during a 3-day server outage because going home meant losing momentum. Missed Carter's birth. Not the actual birth, but close enough. I was in a data center in Seattle when my ex-wife called to say she was in labor. Made it to the hospital 4 hours after he was born. Told myself it was temporary. Told her the same thing. It wasn't. By 2015, I was managing 9 enterprise clients. Bright Core Tech, Summit Industries, Paramount Enterprises. Names that mattered. Contracts that kept the lights on. I was pulling in 60% of company revenue through my pipeline alone. I was the guy they called when a client was angry. When a system went down at midnight, when a project scope tripled and someone needed to explain why we could still deliver on time, I made it work. Always did. Then 2017 hit. My marriage fell apart. She left. Took half of everything and moved to San Diego with some guy who taught yoga and posted motivational quotes on social media. Left me with the house, the boys, and a pile of bills I hadn't realized we had. Work became the anchor. The only thing that made sense when nothing else did. I doubled down. Worked harder, stayed later, took on more accounts. Because if I wasn't good at being a husband, at least I could be good at this. When Mercier Global bought us out in 2021, they did what every corporate acquirer does. Big Zoom call, lots of smiles. Talk about synergy and opportunity and taking things to the next level. Their CEO, Philip Mercier himself, stood there in his expensive suit talking about how this was going to be great for everyone. What he didn't mention was that he'd walk away 6 months later with a check for millions and a consulting gig in Europe. What he didn't say was that synergy meant layoffs and opportunity meant cutting costs. We got a new logo. They got a gutted company. Management bloat came first. Suddenly, we needed 3 approvals for things I used to handle with a phone call. We spent more time in meetings talking about work than actually doing work. They made us build slide decks instead of fixing problems. Then the cuts started. Quiet at first. An admin here, an operations guy there. Calendar invites labeled status update that everyone knew meant something else. My team went from 6 people to 2. The work didn't shrink, just got redistributed to whoever was left. I was fielding client calls at 10 at night, apologizing for bugs I hadn't been briefed on, doing database rollbacks at 2 in the morning because we didn't have enough developers and someone had to keep the systems running. Doug Ramsey, my old boss from the early days, the guy who'd hired me back in 2008, pulled me aside 8 months ago at a company thing. "Watch your back, Dean," he said. Quiet, like he didn't want anyone else to hear. New regime doesn't value old guards. They're clearing the deck. I didn't listen. Thought loyalty mattered. Thought 17 years of results would count for something. Turns out I was wrong. I walked into my office and pulled out my original contract from the bottom desk drawer. The one from 2008, back when Ridgeline was still small enough that we all knew each other's birthdays. Read through it twice, slowly, looking for the thing I remembered but hadn't thought about in years. There it was, Section 7B. In the event of a major compensation change exceeding 20%, employee may resign without notice and without penalty. 20%. They'd cut me by 59. No non-compete clause. We never had to sign one back then. Ridgeline was built on trust, on the idea that if you treated people right, they'd stay because they wanted to, not because some legal document forced them to. That was their mistake. I didn't need to download anything, didn't need to copy files or forward emails. The information was already in my head. 17 years of relationships, of knowing that Brightcore's CIO had a son who played baseball and tore his ACL last season, of knowing that Summit Industries was about to renew, but was frustrated with billing, of understanding the back-channel politics at Paramount Enterprises better than anyone in that company did. That wasn't stolen data. That was earned trust. I sat there for a while, thought about Tyler and Carter asleep down the hall, about the mortgage and the tuition deposit and the tournament fees, about the fact that I was 50 years old and starting over wasn't supposed to be part of the plan. But neither was taking a 59% pay cut from people who thought I'd just bend over and accept it. I picked up my phone, called Curtis back. "Tell them I'll meet," I said. "Tomorrow morning. Early." Curtis didn't even try to hide the relief in his voice. 8 o'clock. Morton's Diner on 5th. Why a diner? Because if this is real, nobody needs a conference room. Fair enough. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a while, just thinking, running through scenarios, calculating risks. They thought they had me, thought I'd take the cut because I had bills to pay and nowhere else to go. Thought 17 years of loyalty meant I'd just shut up and accept whatever they decided I was worth. They forgot something important. They forgot that loyalty only works when it runs both ways. I got up, walked down the hall, checked on the boys. Tyler was asleep with his laptop still open next to him. Probably fell asleep watching something. Carter was wrapped in his blankets like he was building a fort in his sleep. I stood there for a minute, just watching them breathe. This wasn't about ego, wasn't about revenge or proving a point. This was about them. I had two choices: keep taking hits until there was nothing left to take, or remind everyone involved who I was before they decided I was disposable. I closed their doors quietly, walked back to my office, started thinking through what tomorrow morning needed to look like. Apex Solutions wasn't just some competitor. They were the competitor. Bigger budget, better leadership, less corporate bureaucracy, and more focus on actually doing the work. I'd watched them grow over the last 3 years while Mercier gutted Ridgeline from the inside. Curtis had gotten out 8 months ago. Smart move. He'd tried to get me to follow then, but I'd said no. Still believed in loyalty. Still thought it mattered. Now I knew better. I pulled up Apex's website, read through their client list, their leadership team, their approach. Spent 2 hours going through everything I could find. Glassdoor reviews, LinkedIn profiles, press releases. By the time I closed my laptop, it was past midnight. I knew what I was going to say tomorrow. Knew what I needed from them. Knew what I was willing to walk away from and what I wasn't. For the first time since that conference room, my head felt clear. They wanted to play games with my livelihood. Fine, but they were about to learn I knew how to play too. I pulled into Morton's Diner at 7:50 the next morning. 10 minutes early. Jeans, boots, black polo. If this was a real conversation, I wasn't showing up in a suit pretending to be someone I wasn't. Nolan Bridges was already inside. Booth by the window. Mid-50s, rolled sleeves, no tie. The kind of guy who'd built teams before and knew what actual work looked like. He saw me walk in, nodded once, and by the time I slid into the booth, there was already a coffee waiting. "Black, right?" he said. "Yeah, thanks." No small talk, no fake corporate warmth. Just two men who'd been around long enough to know when to skip the bullshit. I wrapped my hands around the mug. Let the heat sink in. Curtis said, "You've been asking about me." "We have, for about a year now." Nolan leaned back. "Tried to recruit you twice. You said no both times. I was loyal to Ridgeline." "And where did that get you?" I didn't answer. Didn't need to. We both knew why I was sitting there. He continued, voice steady. "We've been tracking your client retention rate, 94% over 5 years. That doesn't happen in this industry. Not with the budget cuts you've been working under. Not with the management chaos Mercier brought in." I took a sip of coffee. Let him keep talking. "Every time we've tried to flip one of Ridgeline's major accounts, they tell us the same thing. We trust Dean. We're not leaving while he's there." He paused. "You're not just managing clients. You're the only reason they haven't walked. Mercier doesn't see it that way. Mercier sees quarterly reports and offshore labor costs. They don't see people. He pulled a folder from his bag, slid it across the table. We do. I opened it, scanned the first page. Then the second, base salary, $188,000. Performance bonus structure tied to client retention and revenue growth. Full benefits, health, dental, vision. Stock options that actually meant something. And at the bottom, $20,000 signing bonus. I kept my face neutral. Didn't let him see the relief trying to crawl up my throat. Why so much? I asked. Nolan leaned forward. Because you've built something that matters. Because we've watched you hold that client base together with duct tape and determination while your own company cut you off at the knees. And because we don't want to just hire you. We want to hire what you represent, which is someone who gives a damn. Someone clients actually trust. Someone who knows that relationships aren't built in PowerPoint decks. I closed the folder but kept my hand on it. There's something you should know. I'm not coming alone. Nolan raised an eyebrow. Explain. I've got 2 guys still at Ridgeline. Lance Cooper and Austin Riley. Both solid. Both getting squeezed the same way I am. If I come to Apex, I need to know there's room for them within 60 days. He didn't hesitate. Already planned on it? We want the whole engine, not just the driver. That's when I knew this was real. I'll give you my answer by 3 this afternoon, I said. Nolan nodded. Didn't push. Just sipped his coffee like we were discussing weekend plans. But before I stood up, he said one more thing. You should know, we've been hearing things about Mercier's plans for your division. What kind of things? Offshore transition. Full department move within 8 months. They're forcing attrition so they don't have to pay severance. That salary cut you got? That's step 1. My jaw tightened. That confirmed? 2 separate sources. We've seen the vendor proposals circulating. So that was it. That was the play. Cut salaries until people quit. Move everything overseas. Save millions. Never have to explain why 30-year veterans suddenly weren't worth keeping. I stood up, folder in hand. I'll call you by 3. I didn't go home. Drove straight to Ridgeline. Pulled into the parking lot at 11:30. Badge still worked. Nobody had flagged me yet. The receptionist gave me a tight smile. The kind that said she'd heard something but wasn't sure what. I didn't stop to explain. Took the elevator to the 4th floor. Walked down the hallway past cubicles where people I'd known for years suddenly found their computer screens very interesting. Conference room B. Same room as yesterday. Door was open. I walked in. Troy Bennett sat at the head of the table. Hair perfect, shirt pressed. That watch catching the light like it was trying to remind everyone in the room what success looked like. Angela was beside him. Folder in her lap. Eyes already on the floor. Dean, Troy said, barely looking up from his tablet. We need your decision. I pulled out a chair. Sat down, took my time getting comfortable. Got a couple questions first, I said. Troy's expression shifted. Annoyed already. This isn't a negotiation, Dean. Wasn't planning on one. Just want some clarity. I leaned back. Who's taking point on the Paramount rollout next month? He blinked, set down his tablet. That's being reassigned. To who? That's not your concern anymore. It is when I promised the client I'd manage it personally. Troy did that thing corporate managers do. That slight smile that's supposed to make you feel small. Dean, you need to understand your role has evolved. We're moving in a different direction. Different direction. Corporate speak for we're done with you. You're outsourcing the division, I said. Flat, not a question. Angela shifted in her seat. Troy's smile faded. You're moving my entire department overseas within the year, aren't you? Silence. The kind that confirms everything without saying a word. Troy recovered fast. I don't know what you think you know. Doesn't matter. I stood up, slow and steady. I'm not accepting the pay cut. I'm resigning, effective immediately. Troy actually laughed. Short and sharp. You can't just walk out. Section 7B of my original contract. No notice required in the event of a major compensation change. You cut me by 59%. I'd say that qualifies. Angela's head dropped into her papers. Started flipping through them fast. Her hands were shaking. You'll be hearing from our lawyers, Troy said. For what? I met his eyes. Held them. I haven't taken anything that isn't mine. Haven't copied a single file. Haven't forwarded a single document. All I'm walking out with is my reputation. The relationships I built with those clients over 17 years. That's mine, and I'm taking it with me. He tried to respond, but I was already done listening. I turned to Angela. You got a resignation form in that folder? She nodded, barely. Slide it over. She did. I signed it. Right there. Dated it. Pushed it back across the table. Troy stood up. You think this is some kind of power move? I walked to the door. Stopped. Looked back at him. No, I said. That comes next. And I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't pack a box. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. Just walked straight to the elevator, down to the parking lot, and into my truck. Started the engine. Pulled out of that lot for the last time. By the time I hit the main road, my hands were steady. My head was clear. And for the first time in 8 months, I could breathe. I called Nolan. I'm in. When do I start? Monday work for you? Monday works. I hung up. Drove home, walked inside. Made lunch, like it was just another day. But it wasn't. It was the day I stopped letting other people decide what I was worth. The voicemails started around 2 in the afternoon. Missed calls piling up. Regional VPs, legal department, even Troy himself, though he didn't leave a message. Just hung up after 2 rings. By 4 o'clock, my personal cell started lighting up. Different names this time. Names I knew. Names that mattered. Paramount Enterprises, Summit Industries, Brightcore Tech. All confused, all wanting answers. Dean, we just heard you left. Nobody told us anything. What's going on? I let them talk. Let them vent their frustration. Then I gave them the truth. Short and professional. Ridgeline made decisions I couldn't stand behind. I left, that's all I can say right now. There was always a pause after that. That moment where anger shifts into understanding. Where are you going? Apex Solutions. I start Monday. Another pause, longer this time. Can we call you there? I'd like that. By 6 o'clock, I had texts from Lance and Austin. Screenshots of Troy scrambling. Assigning accounts to people who barely understood the systems. Promising callbacks that weren't happening. Making excuses to clients who'd been with us for years. Lance sent. He tried to put Madison on the Brightcore account. She thought it was a hardware contract. I replied, check your email in an hour. Apex had already prepared offers for both of them. Same day, Curtis had told me they were ready to move fast if I said yes. The offers went out at 7, both accepted by 9. That night, Angela sent an email. Subject line, professional courtesy violation. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. It has come to our attention that your exit may not have followed best practice professional norms. We expect better from someone in your former position. I stared at it for a minute. Then I hit reply. Attached a screenshot of Section 7B from my contract. Added one line. I followed the contract you gave me in 2008. Perhaps you should read it. Copied HR, copied legal. Sent it, never heard back. Day 3 at Apex, I finally started breathing normal again. Real office, real setup. Desk that didn't wobble. Chair that didn't squeak. Coffee that didn't taste like it had been sitting since yesterday. I was setting up my laptop when my phone rang. Unknown number. Dean Porter. Yeah, this is Philip Mercier. I stopped moving. The CEO himself. No assistant. No buffer. Just him calling me direct. He didn't waste time. I've been made aware of client movement following your departure. There's concern about fallout. Clients followed me because they trust me. That's not illegal. That's loyalty. Troy says you violated. Let me stop you there, I said. Kept my voice level. Troy offered me a 59% pay cut in a windowless room with no warning and no explanation. Then he conveniently forgot to mention the offshore transition plan for the 3rd quarter. You want to talk about violations? Start there. Silence on the other end. Long enough that I thought he might have hung up. Then, what would it take to bring you back? I almost laughed. You think this is about money? Everything's about money, Dean. Not this. This is about respect. Something I gave Ridgeline for 17 years and never got back. You can't buy that. You can't negotiate it. It's just gone. He tried a different angle. We'd be willing to match Apex's offer. Beat it even. Still no. Then what do you want? I leaned back in my chair, looked out the window at a skyline that wasn't mine yet, but would be. Here's what I want. Stop treating the people still there like they're disposable. Fire Troy. And stop threatening legal action against someone who resigned using the contract you gave him. You're not resigning quietly. No, I said. You made sure that when you cut my salary in half and expected me to smile about it. Another pause, longer this time. I could hear him breathing, calculating. This call didn't happen, he said finally. Fine by me. He hung up. I set my phone down, looked at the empty desk in front of me, the fresh start, the clean slate. Then I opened my email and got back to work. 6 months later, I had a corner office, actual windows, a title that meant something, Director of Client Integration, 18 people on my team, good people, people who wanted to be there. I still showed up early, still stayed late when it mattered. But the difference was, it mattered for the right reasons now. Tyler was finishing his freshman year. Grades were good. He'd earned an $8,000 academic scholarship for sophomore year. Called me on a Tuesday afternoon to tell me. I was in my office when my phone rang. Saw his name, picked up immediately. Dad, I got it, the scholarship. $8,000. I had to set the phone down for a second. Put it on speaker. Couldn't trust my voice. That's great, Ty. That's really great. I know we were worried about next year's costs. This helps, right? 17 years ago, I would have been in a conference room during this call. Too busy to pick up. Too important to step away. Would have called him back later and pretended I'd been somewhere I couldn't answer. Now I was here, present, and my kid was calling me with good news instead of asking why I missed another game. Yeah, I said. It helps a lot. I'm proud of you. We talked for 20 minutes. About his classes. About summer plans. About Carter's baseball season. Normal stuff, dad stuff. The kind of conversations I used to think I was too busy for. After we hung up, I sat there for a while, just thinking. In the first 4 months at Apex, 7 of my old clients had left Ridgeline. I didn't pitch them. Didn't send a single sales email. They came to me. Dean, we're not getting answers anymore. Can we move our contract to Apex? Every time I said the same thing, let me see what we can do. And every time we did it, Ridgeline scrambled, slashed rates, offered deals that made no financial sense, threw account managers at problems that needed actual solutions. Didn't matter. Turns out relationships beat discounts. Every single time. I heard through the network that Angela got moved to some internal development role. Corporate speak for we need her gone, but don't want to pay severance. Troy resigned 4 months after I left. Probably got pushed. Word was he'd botched 3 major client handoffs and tried to run a software demo without understanding what the software actually did. The offshore transition plan? Quietly shelved. No announcement. No explanation. Just stopped. I heard from 2 former Ridgeline managers that the vendor contracts got canceled without explanation. Mercier kept bleeding clients. Lost market share. Started talking about refocusing on core competencies, which usually meant they were in trouble. Last month, I ran into Doug Ramsey at a conference in Portland. He saw me from across the room, cut through a crowd of 50 people, pulled me into a hug. They did you dirty, Dean, he said. But damn if you didn't land on your feet. I smiled. Didn't land, Doug? Jumped, he laughed. Understood exactly what I meant. We grabbed coffee after the conference. Talked for 2 hours. He told me he'd left Ridgeline 3 months after I did. Couldn't watch what they were doing to the place we'd built. You know what the worst part was? He said. Watching them tear down something good and calling it progress. I knew exactly what he meant. That night, I drove home through downtown, past my old office building. Saw the lights still on. 4th floor, someone working late. Someone answering emails at 8 p.m. Someone probably thinking loyalty matters. I didn't slow down, just kept driving. Got home. Carter was in the driveway throwing a baseball against the brick wall. Catch and repeat, over and over, the sound every dad knows. How was practice? I called out. Good. Coach says I'm starting Friday. I'll be there. He smiled. Threw the ball again. I know, that's the thing they don't tell you in corporate training sessions. They don't mention that success isn't just about the title or the salary or the corner office. It's about being able to say, I'll be there and actually meaning it. I walked inside. Tyler was at the kitchen table doing homework. Looked up when I came in. How was work? Good. Really good, actually. And I meant it. I keep a photo on my desk at Apex. First day at Ridgeline. 2008. 12 people crammed into a conference room, grinning like we just won the lottery. Young, hungry, stupid enough to think hard work was all that mattered. That guy in the photo, 20 years younger, barely knew what he was doing. He'd be proud of how this turned out. Not because of the money, not because of the title, because somewhere along the way, I figured out the difference between loyalty and self-respect. Loyalty is what you give someone until they prove they don't deserve it. Self-respect is what you keep no matter what anyone else does. I used to think walking away meant failure, like 17 years of work would be wasted if I left. Turns out the only waste would have been staying. Now I work for people who know what I'm worth, who don't need me to prove it every quarter, who understand that relationships are built over years, not bought with slide decks. My boys are good. I'm good. Work is good. And on Friday nights when I'm sitting in the bleachers watching Carter pitch, I'm not checking my email. I'm not thinking about Monday morning. I'm not calculating how many hours until I have to be back online. I'm just there, present, where I'm supposed to be. That's the real win. Not the salary bump. Not the corner office. Not even watching Ridgeline scramble after I left. The real win was learning to say no. No to being undervalued. No to eating it with a smile. No to giving another year to people who thought I'd never have the guts to walk. So if you're reading this and you're sitting in some conference room getting handed a pay cut or a demotion or a restructured role and you're thinking you don't have options, you're wrong. You do. Sometimes all it takes is one phone call, one conversation, one moment where you decide you're worth more than what they're offering. And sometimes the best revenge isn't burning bridges. It's building a better one somewhere else and watching them realize too late what they lost. I didn't burn Ridgeline down. I just stopped holding it up. Turns out that was enough.